Welcome to the good news, the gospel according to AMC's Preacher.
And this is Marnell. And remember when we rescue the torture victim, bring the Percocet.
And all I'm going to say in response to that is, took you long enough, wanker.
Welcome back, Gobshite. Which is so apt for the first podcast of the season.
Right?
Welcome back, Gobshite.
We have been so long away from Preacher. It's been so long since we've done one of these podcasts. I couldn't even remember our format.
Well, you're Tulip and I'm Kathy.
That's right. I totally forgot. See?
We're leaving it in.
I think that this is the first time that I've introduced myself with my name.
I know.
That is really funny.
Oh,
yes, we are leaving it in.
It's been a week.
It has been a week. It's been a tough week, and we're only halfway through it.
Right?
And Marnell knows this. I'm picking up our mother at the airport 2 nights from now, and we'll have her in my home for over a week. So I'm prepared for another week.
And you'll do it without me this time, because last time I was there.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty tired, and I'm expecting to be more tired.
But you have the other real Alaskan housewife up there right now, too. So.
I do, but she is closing on a house.
Oh, that's right.
So her energy is going to be somewhat taken up by that process.
How fun, though.
Yeah. All right. Preacher, season 4. They dropped episodes 1 and 2 on us in the same night.
I hate it when they do that.
Yeah, I'm not jacked about that.
Yeah.
So we watched The Masada, which was episode 1, and The Last Supper, which was episode 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I just gave them an overall rating, so...
I did also.
Okay. All right. So my rating was 3.5 out of 5 deranged crypto-fascist cult leaders.
You actually rated it slightly higher than I did.
Did I really? That surprises me.
I rated it a 3.4 severed foreskins.
Oh, there were way more than 3.4 severed foreskins.
There were way more. But it always comes back to foreskins with Cassidy. What is up with that?
It does. It's a little creepy.
It's funny.
Yeah. All right, so I've got some numbers. I had to look pretty hard for them because TV by the Numbers, which is the site that I usually go to, Preacher did not make the top 25 for the week. It did not, in either the overall category or the 18 to 49 category, it did not make the overall or the 18 to 49 top 25 for Sunday.
Wow.
What was topped for the week and for Sunday were really the Democratic debate and the news shows. Of course, with the shootings this weekend, I'm not surprised that the news was top on Sunday.
Right.
I did find some numbers at a site called TV Series Finale.
I was just looking at that.
And it looks like there were about 600,000 views in the overall age group and about 150,000 in the 18 to 49 group, which those are pretty grim numbers.
They are, but we all know going into this is the last season. So,
well,
I mean,
and I'll tell you, I looked up some news articles about Preacher, and I was really glad to see an interview with the cast where they said in the interview that they had actually wrapped filming and completed the project. So I thought, oh gosh, at least AMC is not going to cancel it midway through the season because the numbers are so bad.
Right. And it seems the reviews that it has been getting seem to be positive.
Yeah.
I just think that people are not watching the show live because they know it's the last season, so they're probably just saving up to binge, or they know they can watch a week later or 2 weeks later or whatever.
Well,
so,
and honestly, it never had great viewership to begin with.
It didn't. No, it's definitely not
really
for everybody.
bad viewership now.
Plus, I feel like they didn't hype it a lot. Like, maybe it's because I don't have AMC. I didn't see a whole lot of, coming soon on this date.
They didn't hype it a lot. I mean, probably the last 2 or 3 episodes of Fear the Walking Dead, they had ads for Preacher, and they were pretty good ads, but it wasn't like, come back and watch Preacher on Sunday, August 4th, you know?
Right. So
they definitely were not hyping it.
I think a lot of people probably just forgot that it was going to be on.
Oh, God. You know, I'm going to admit, and we podcast it, I forgot that it was going to be on until a couple of days before someone posted on Facebook, oh gosh, Preacher is on this weekend. And I was like, oh, you're right, it is.
Yeah, I was a week off too. I always seem to be a week early or a week late on what I'm thinking. And I was like, oh yeah, that's this week, not next week. So we may have to table our Good Omens podcasting because we are going to have Preacher and Fear the Walking Dead going forward. And we have family obligations.
Yeah.
So I think we'll try and get to it someday because I feel that it's worth podcasting. Even though you didn't like this show like you liked the book. I liked the show, but I haven't read the book.
I love the book. It's still one of my all-time favorite books, but I mean, a little preview of our podcast on that. It was really disappointing. I really struggled to even have it playing in the background for the second viewing.
See, and it lost a few things, but it also gained a few things upon my rewatch. I have 2 more episodes to go, and I kind of have a deeper understanding of it, but it's not quite as funny or entertaining as I thought it was, maybe.
I may have gained more of an appreciation for David Tennant, but that's about it.
I always had appreciation for the Doctor.
I know you do. All right, but going back to Preacher, so the titles, the Masada.
Obviously, that's the Grail's compound.
Right. And, you know, I felt like if I had had more time leading up to this podcast, I might have done a deep dive on the history of Masada, but I didn't do it, guys. I'm sorry.
And I didn't even think of it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a critically important site in Jewish history.
Oh.
So, I mean, it's actually a little sacrilegious for Preacher to be using the site the way they're using the site. Yeah.
It's also a pistol.
Oh, of course it is.
Of course it is.
Oh, my God. All right, no more conversation around guns.
No more conversation around guns.
Okay, The Last Supper. I felt like I should actually really have something valid and important to say about that as a title, but I didn't.
I really don't either. I mean, we had the whole meeting of everyone, all the world leaders with the Grail, and then we ended with Hairstar and God, but they weren't really eating. They were having Diet Dr. Pepper.
Right. I wrote in my notes, God looks like Willie Nelson and he swills Diet Dr. Pepper.
Okay, like the braids. Like I had the Willie Nelson feeling too. That's so funny.
Yes. We're probably dating ourselves again. Although Willie is always cool.
I was going to say Willie hangs out with Snoop Dogg. So,
right.
Like, yeah. The kids are hip to Willie.
Okay, so our writers, for Masada, it was Sam Catlin, who we know and have talked about as one of the developers of the show. Mm-hmm. And then a guy named Kevin Rosen, who actually only has 2 writing credits, and both of them are Preacher credits.
Oh.
So he wrote this episode with Sam Catlin, and he wrote the episode The Tom Brady, which was last season. And he's got a ton of miscellaneous crew credits. He's worked on quite a bit as a crew person.
So just like we see with the Walking Dead properties, they're giving other crew members their chance to direct and write and produce.
Well, and going right into that, so the guy who wrote The Last Supper, we've talked about him before. His name is Gary, I think it's Tieche, Tieche. And he wrote this episode, Swanskoff, which translates to dickhead, and Gonna Hurt, both of which were from last season. He's got some writing credits that he's got a writing credit that other than Preacher that I recognized he had written for Medium. And then he's actually also got producer credits for Preacher and Medium and a couple of other shows.
Yeah.
So then our director, and we actually had the same director for both episodes, was John Grillo, Grillo. And he actually also directed Gonna Hurt last season. So it looks like he and Gary Tisch had some crossover with those episodes. And he actually only has directing credits for Preacher, which I thought was really interesting. He's got tons of camera and electrical work.
And some big stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Westworld, The Man in the High Castle, The Leftovers, those were things that I recognized right away. Teen Wolf.
Right.
It goes way back to Coyote Ugly.
Coyote Ugly, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yeah. And he actually worked on a movie that I really love that I kind of wanted to highlight. It's a movie with Cameron Diaz and Toni Collette called In Her Shoes.
Oh, that was a good movie.
Yeah, it's really good. It's definitely a chick flick. It's about two sisters who are kind of at odds through a fair portion of the movie, but it's really good.
It is.
But that's about all that I had on the writers and the director. I mean, they really didn't have a ton of work in these particular disciplines.
No, but I can totally see them going forward with a lot of the AMC properties that are kind of in the works right now.
So what is AMC doing that's worth watching?
The Walking Dead and the new Walking Dead.
Yes. And I noticed that we didn't mention Fear.
Yeah.
Kind of struggling with that. We'll see what the second half of this season looks like. Yeah. But, there's not anything else that AMC is advertising that I'm really excited about.
No, not so far.
That's depressing.
They've been on top for a while, though. They, I can see Netflix or Hulu kind of rising for a little while, and then maybe AMC finding another juggernaut like Walking Dead.
So before we get into featured cast, is there anything on the horizon that you're excited about?
Not really.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same place. I mean, I'm excited about the new Walking Dead series. That looks like it's going to be really good, if the trailer is any preview.
The sort of trailer.
Right. It was a very short trailer, and it was basically just the kids talking, but I liked it. I thought it had good production value, and the characters were interesting.
Right. Kind of like the Rick movie trailer. Didn't really have much.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty spare, but it was good.
So, did you watch The Boys?
No, but I do want to talk a little bit about The Boys when I talk about the couple of things that I have in the news. So hold that thought. Because I know that you've binged it.
I binged it, and I absolutely love it. And I don't know the source material. Like, I didn't know the source material for Preacher going in, but it's another Garth Ennis property. And it was so done right.
Okay, hold off on saying anything else.
Okay.
So let's talk about the featured cast.
All right. So our featured cast is Lockie Hume, and
you must have looked at the phonetic pronunciation that was on IMDb just like I did.
So I actually watched a couple of interviews with him.
Oh, there was quite a bit of stuff on YouTube. I didn't watch anything because I didn't leave myself enough time, but yeah, he's got quite a bit on YouTube.
Yes, he does. I specifically watched, it's kind of like a late night with David Letterman in Australia. It's called Studio A. And so they were they were talking about his career, and they were saying that he's not known as a comedian, but you would never know it to watch him. He is so quick-witted and so funny. And I think maybe, I don't know, Australians are just quick-witted and funny anyway, I think. But he's he's deadpan, and he's always got a quick comeback, and it's very funny. So it's probably about 10-15 minutes worth of material. They do this little thing where he kind of gives advice to other members of this in the studio on how to break into acting, and like it's so funny. The back and forth, the banter back and forth is just I can't even describe it. It's really funny. I'll try and post it to the Facebook page when the episode goes up, because it was cut into 2 parts, and that's one section. It's super funny. So yes, Lochy Hume, that's how you pronounce it, but it's spelled Lachyhulme.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't recognize him from anything except for The Matrix Reloaded. He does a lot of work in Australia.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of like Australian TV shows.
Right. And he talks about one of the interviews that he did for Preacher, he talks about he is very, very choosy about his roles. He will turn down 90% of the things he is offered. And he actually was going to turn down this role for Preacher, but his agent called him. He had 10 missed messages from his agent, and his agent said, "You absolutely have to take this show. It's my favorite show.
Oh, that's cool.
Basically, if you don't do it, I'm not going to represent you anymore." And
wow.
Normally he doesn't regret passing on anything, but he decided to take this, and he said, "I would have totally regretted passing on this. This has been such an amazing experience." And he talks about working with American studios, how in Australia you'll maybe get 3 takes, and in the US you get dozens of takes, and they bring all kinds of cool toys to the set. Like he talked about one of the camera things that they have is called a Scorpion, and it's a camera on kind of a big arm that can, pull in and zoom out, about 100 feet, all, to different actors and everything. So it's just a big piece of camera equipment that they were having fun with. And he said there was literally dozens of gallons of blood on the movie set. On the show set. He's never seen so much fake blood on a movie set in his entire career. So he was pretty excited about that. He really, really liked working on this project with Preacher. And when I saw him, when you saw him, did you like recognize him, or did something immediately come to mind?
No, but he looks like he's in a fat suit.
So his IMDb profile photo and all of the other things that I've seen him in, it does look like he is in a fat suit, because he's a pretty stunning guy to look at. He's very handsome.
I did see some pictures of him from a role that he just recently completed in Australia, and he was pretty stout for that role, but he still did not look as heavy as he looked in this role for Preacher.
Right. So he reminded me of one of the guys from Goodfellas.
Oh, yeah. And that's what they were going for.
I also immediately thought Daniel Baldwin.
Oh, I can see that.
Yeah, so like Daniel Baldwin in the movie Vampires with James Woods, the John Carpenter Vampires. That's immediately what I went to, and I was like, I seriously looked him up, because I was like, that can't be one of the lesser known Baldwins. I totally thought it was one of like the lesser known Baldwin brothers, because that's just exactly what he looked like. And I don't know if it's because they kind of stereotypically kind of played this role where he talked about, never having to leave the 5 boroughs and everything, and kind of being kind of a good fella and everything. But I thought it was funny that that's initially why I looked him up and he became our featured cast member, is because I thought he was one of the lesser known Baldwins.
Oh, that's really funny.
But he's a really good Australian actor, and it looks like we're going to see a lot more from him this season. I surfed around on his Twitter, There's not really much there. He used to only follow 41 people
Mm.
because 41 is his lucky number. But he started following another actor, so now it's 42.
Oh
And it's
God,
funny.
that's really funny.
40 and the actor was super stoked that he was being followed by Lockie. But he also does something really fun on his Twitter. He rates things a lot. Like he has his top 10 favorite Batmans and his top 10 favorite 007s.
Are there really even 10 Batmans out there? I didn't realize that.
If you count the TV series Batman.
Huh.
There were, I think, 2 TV series Batmans. It surprised me that there were 10 007s. I thought there was only like 6.
Yeah, I don't know that I would have gotten to 10.
Oh, it might have been 007 movies. But yeah, he's super funny on Twitter. You can follow him at Lockie Hume, which you have to figure out the spelling. I spelled it.
You spelled it
earlier for you.
once.
Yeah. And there was something really interesting on one of the interviews with him, because he was in one of the Matrix movies. He also voiced the character for the Matrix video game, and it was one of the very first video games to do motion capture with all of the actors that were in the movie. And so he said it was the only time in his life he has ever worn a G-string.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Because, of course, they do motion capture with your body and they put all the little dots for the motion capture on you. And yeah, he was not very enthused about wearing a G-string. So it was the only time in his life he had. But he's super funny. You can go check him out. He's not political at all, it seems, on his Twitter page. I went back pretty far. He joined Twitter in 2009. Like, I didn't even know Twitter was around since 2009.
Yeah,
So
it wasn't a thing.
yeah, he's only got 4,500 tweets, so he doesn't tweet that often. But I have a feeling now that he's been on an AMC show and he's going to be recognized a little bit more, that he'll start getting a lot more likes and retweets, and he seems to interact with his 42 people he's following, not his followers, but the 42 people he's following a lot. So yeah, that's Lockie Hume.
Well, the only thing that I want to add is that I actually was curious about him, so I looked to see if there was just anything that popped up in the news for him, and he actually just finished a role for, I think, a TV movie in Australia, and he plays a guy who actually is a well-known Australian businessman named Kerry Packer. I, of course, have never heard of this guy. It's an Australian thing. But he had cosmetic surgery and had lip filler put in because apparently this guy has a really characteristic smile that they call the trout pout.
Oh, yes.
And he actually, at the end of filming, had the lip filler removed, and it sounds like it was a pretty horrific procedure.
Yeah. Like, usually you can just, like, let that go down on its own. It'll just be absorbed by your body. To have it removed, they have to actually, like, cut open the lip and, like, scrape or suction it out.
That just sounds horrible.
Yeah, I think I would have just, like, let it be absorbed naturally.
Yeah.
Huh.
Nasty. So,
Oh, wow. There is a picture of him on the Daily Mail.
right. I think that was the article that I looked at. And he looks pretty girthy.
Yeah. Wow. That's super interesting. He kind of looks like, I cannot remember the actor's name now. Big actor here in the U.S., but I don't know. I'm surprised we haven't seen more from him other than the fact that he is very choosy about his roles.
You know, I thought he was funny in this role. He was certainly horrifying in this role in a really, like, middle school boy sort of way.
Right? It's really up Preacher's alley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. There really was not a heck of a lot in terms of news around Preacher. There was a good interview at TVinsider.com where they just talked a little bit about how Dominic Cooper was really happy that he felt like they closed out the story well. He said, quote, "They've done what the comics did." So not having read beyond some of the initial stuff for Preacher, I
Right.
don't know how the comic series wrapped up, but I'm wondering if they stayed pretty close to the end of the story. There was actually, interestingly enough, in the other article that I looked at, some conversation around how much Preacher actually strayed from the source material and lost a lot of viewers because of that. So I'm wondering if they've kind of gone back to the source material for the end of the series. So the other article that I looked at actually talked about The Boys because, as you said, The Boys was also written by Garth Ennis.
Mm-hmm.
And it was produced by Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg.
Right.
So apparently Garth Ennis said about The Boys, "We're going to out Preacher." And I don't know. You got to tell me, did they out Preacher?
So I actually don't think that they out Preacher as far as like 12-year-old boy fun gore dick jokes. I think The Boys was a lot darker, a lot more serious. But it was definitely in the same vein of Antihero, which I love a good antihero. You know what? I am excited for a new series that's coming out. Watchmen is coming out.
Now they're doing it as a series.
They're doing it as a series.
Who's doing it?
HBO.
Oh,
I think.
Really? Huh.
Yeah. So I love a good antihero. So I think that's why I like Preacher. That's why I loved The Boys. I can't say I really need to go back and rewatch just because it's not the heroes we need. It's the heroes we deserve. You know?
You and I are kind of feeling the same way about the planet right now. I'm not sure that we deserve many heroes. So is it the heroes that you and I think we deserve, or
I think it's the heroes that you and I think we deserve. Specifically, I love in Watchmen. I love Rorschach, and I love his quote about basically how every people will cry out in need and I'll whisper back no. I don't know. I'm not a big Superman, Batman fan right now. I like the dark anti-heroes.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's why The Boys spoke to me.
I started watching it a few nights ago, and I just have not been in a good headspace for doing much this week. Yeah. So I need to watch it when I'm in the right headspace.
I don't know that there is quite a right headspace because it is pretty dark. I do have to say it's not for children.
I'm good with dark. I'm doing a deep dive back into O.J. Simpson. I'm good with dark.
Well, God, it's not that dark.
It's pretty, yeah. Oh my God, I have to say this because I said it on our Walking Dead podcast on Biters. But boy, if you are interested at all in the O.J. Simpson case, which I followed pretty closely in the 90s, the new podcast Confronting O.J. Simpson with Kim Goldman is just phenomenal. Another episode dropped today, and it was an episode about grief. And about exploring grief. And I'm getting chills even talking about it. It's been so phenomenal. And her treatment of the material has been just incredible.
Is this going to be a regular thing? Or is this like not episodic?
Well, so it sounded today like it was kind of the last episode. I mean, there really were kind of some goodbyes in the episode. And I thought, oh no, I'm enjoying this so much. And then at the end of the episode, she said, we've got some extras from season 1. And she kind of made it sound like there's going to be a season 2. So I don't know.
So on your recommendation, I listened to the doctor one,
Dr. Death.
Dr. Death. And I'm not all the way. I'm all the way through the regular 6 episodes, and I think there's 10 or 11 total because they did so many follow-ups. So I wonder if the OJ one will be like that, whether either be a lot of follow-ups later, or if they'll parlay it into some other sort of like,
Exploring your experience kind of thing.
well, kind of like a serial,
Right,
where
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, every season focuses on a different crime or a different upheaval in history.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where she takes it, but it was really good.
Right, because she has quite a different perspective on it than anybody else could.
Right.
Yeah. But no, I love Dr. Death. Dr. Death was great.
Oh my gosh, yeah. If you want a true life medical malpractice drama, Dr. Death is your podcast.
Yes, in episode 1, you're like, how did this guy get away with this? How, and he really didn't, but
Throughout the entire series, I was like,
Yeah.
how did this guy get away with this?
And then I think it was in like episode 4 or something, they played the interview tapes with him with the police. And I'm just like, this guy, like, I don't believe it because I know that he's guilty because I'm listening to the podcast, but I'm like, he's a masterful BSer. Like, he had a cool, calm explanation for everything.
Well, you kind of have to be to get through med school. And he did, for what it's worth, get through med school.
Right. Yeah. Wow.
Okay, that was a detour.
Yeah. Well, you asked if I was excited about it.
I did.
I suddenly remembered The Watchmen
So
because of the boys.
Before we get into the Gospel, Job, and Revelations, I just have to say this. Do you recognize that?
Vaguely.
That's the tune that was playing at the end of episode 1 for this premiere.
What is it?
It's a song by a group called The Swayback, and it's called Just Like the Old Days. And it was so good. I really liked it. Whoa, now YouTube is talking at me. But boy, I would encourage people to seek out that song, The Swayback. The Swayback. Yeah.
Just like the old days.
Just like the old days.
Okay.
So, with that, tell me your gospel. Tell me your good news.
So I actually had kind of a hard time because
I did too.
Yeah, for one, I mean, they did 2 episodes, and I hate it when they do that. I don't know why they do that, other than when they do that at the end of the season when they're like, oh crap, we ran out of time, we have to show them 2 at once. But this is the beginning of the season. You really didn't need to show 2 at once. And putting them together, and I don't, maybe putting them apart would have been even more confusing. Putting them together, I was, both of them threw me. Like, I know that there was like a few months ago at some point, but I'm very confused as to what's going on and what's happening. So I had a very hard time finding a good, but you texted me the other night, and of course I rewatched, and I absolutely love Why God Killed the Dinosaurs.
Oh my God, that's my good too.
Oh, good. Because we both are avid dog people.
All right. And so what I said was, anyone who has lived with huskies knows.
Right?
That moment of going, no, don't do it.
Told you not to do it.
So for anybody who hasn't lived with that, we're talking about the poop-eating dinosaur.
Yes.
Oh my God.
And not just poop eating, but then coming up and burping in your face.
Yes.
Yeah. No, mine, he'll like clean himself, and then he'll want to come give me kisses. It's like, nope. I know where that's been. I've never seen dogs
that eat as much poop as huskies do.
I don't think I've ever actually seen mine eat.
I have.
But I have 2 dogs, and there is not enough poop in the backyard for 2 dogs. I clean the poop at least weekly, and I know that there should be at least 2 piles a day for 7 days, and there's not. So,
yeah. and then finding out that that's the reason that God killed the dinosaur. Yeah.
They kind of deserved it.
Everything about that opening scene completely worked for me. And the thing that I wrote down was, for me, it really harkened back to the craziness and that we've never seen this before feeling of the very first episode of Preacher.
Yes, exactly. It was and I just made a comment on one of Rob Southgate's posts about he was making comparisons about things, and I said something about not liking claymation. I've not liked claymation since the movie The Gate. If any of you have ever seen the horror movie The Gate, you will know why claymation freaks me out. It has since then. So, like, I totally forgave the claymation dinosaur because of that old-timey feel that we had in episode 1. We got that back this episode with the poop-eating dinosaurs.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. That's funny. That was your good. I have a slightly other good.
Okay, go for it.
I really liked the chick fight between Tulip and Featherstone.
Okay, I'm just going to say it now because it's in my my word. We saw so many fights and so much over the top stuff in this episode. I felt like they were just trying to cram everything. Car chases, gunfights, knife fights.
Yes, absolutely. And like even the one with Jesse and all the Grail guys, I'm like, that's really unnecessary because he could just tell them to all lay down on the ground and they'd have to do it.
Oh, good point. I didn't even think about that.
So that was just fighting for the sake of fighting. Like, he just wanted to get his brawl on.
And it was just action for the sake of action in the series, which was kind of a bummer.
But that is exactly what Preacher is. It's just gratuitous. Like, gratuitous whatever. Gratuitous sex, gratuitous drug use, gratuitous fighting, gratuitous blood, gratuitous everything. It's just gratuitous. So, it's true to form. So, you have to give it that.
All right, so what was your Job? What was your bad?
Cassidy not leaving. I didn't understand that.
Thank you. That was not my bad, but I totally have that written down. I was like, why didn't Cass leave?
Okay, so we go to all this trouble to rescue Cassidy. He doesn't leave, and then he has to try and escape again, and Tulip and Preacher have to go and try and re-rescue him again. I'm like, what was the point of all of this?
No, I totally didn't get it.
I get that he didn't want to be rescued by Jesse, but come on. Like, he had to go chew his own leg off, and he had to, and he still even had his reservations about leaving and had to, I don't know. I didn't get the whole, he didn't want to be rescued. He had a hard time escaping. Like, I didn't get the whole thing.
Yeah, no, I totally didn't grok it either.
Okay, good.
Yeah, don't feel alone.
Oh, because I'm like, even on the rewatch, I was like, did I miss something? What? I mean, I get it. Mom and Dad are fighting, but
I totally thought of you, and I totally thought of that. I was like, oh God, Mom and Dad are fighting again. Ugh.
I mean, they're shaving off your foreskin as soon as it grows back over and over and over. Like, just go. Like, swallow your pride and go.
Don't stay for any reason.
Yeah, unless it's to, like, rescue that poor angel that's hanging in that tower.
Okay, and I didn't get that either.
Well, and I remember seeing him last season.
Something that the Grail has
up their sleeve. Yeah, like, I don't know why you would just keep an angel hanging like that, like, and like, maybe you need to be torturing him for information. I don't know. Like, but why do you just have him hanging there randomly? That's weird.
Yeah.
Anyway, what was your joke?
Well, so you said it before. I had two. And actually you've covered both of them, but I'm going to talk about them again anyway. And you said it. It has totally devolved into dick and fart jokes. Thank you, Kevin Smith, because I always think of Jay and Silent Bob when I say that.
Yeah.
It feels like a teenage boy was producing it.
Yeah.
And there's part of me that like really likes that, and that was one of the things that I loved so much about the very first episode of Preacher. But I kind of feel like this was that over and over and over and over. It got kind of tired.
Yeah, and I don't know if it, like I said, it was 2 episodes back to back. So maybe if it was just one, it would have been like, okay. But
well, and that was my second thing in my Job, which is I would have been okay with just the first episode, and I think I probably would have enjoyed it more. But as it was, and this phrase I stole from a journalist who was talking about 2016, it's like drinking from a fire hose. I mean, I was glazed over by the time we were done with the second episode. 2 hours of Preacher in one night is too much.
yeah, yeah. And especially since it seems like they're trying to cram everything in the entire series of books into this 10 episodes. Like, it's too much. We're all over the map and it's hard to track.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
All right. What were your revelations? So what was something like really good or something that was kind of revealed to you in the course of these couple of episodes?
God's totally working with the Grail all of a sudden.
Yeah.
All of a sudden or all along? Has this been his plan all along, or is this like a means to an end? What's going on? Why is God working with the Grail? He's not working for the Grail. He's working with the Grail. And what does that mean? Like, I did really like the very, very end of the second episode where he's got like what's probably like a baby velociraptor in a cage behind him. And all of Jesse's life stuff laid out like a diorama, you know?
Oh my God. I totally didn't realize that's what that was.
Yeah. So you had the church, you had the coffin that they kept putting him under the swamp water in. You had the cars, and then eventually you landed on the plane that he was currently flying on. Yeah, it was Jesse's life.
Good on you for figuring that out, because I totally did not catch that at all. I was wondering what that was representing and what that was trying to represent. But I also think, again, I was just so overwhelmed by 2 hours of Preacher at that point.
Right. Right. So it's almost like he's been moving around the pieces of his life like a chessboard his entire life.
I bet you that's what it's supposed to represent.
Oh, I'm sure, but to what end? You know, what is the purpose? I mean, we still don't fully know why, other than Jesse seems to be the only one that can contain the word, but why Genesis exists in Jesse, and what's God's ultimate plan around that?
Well, and the
apparently
other thing
involves
is,
working with the Grail.
We heard Jesse's dad's voice again.
Did we?
We did. So when Jesse was dreaming,
he
dreamt his dad's voice.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Again, overwhelmed by 2 hours of Preacher.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a lot to break down.
Yeah.
So what was your revelation?
So I really liked that they gave us a good setup. They gave us a glimpse of everybody who was important anyway. So we saw, obviously, Jesse, Cassidy, and Tulip, but we got a brief look in the first episode at Eugene and the Saint of Killers.
Mm-hmm.
We saw God in both. We saw Featherstone and Hairstar in both. And we got a brief look at Hitler in the first episode.
Did we?
Oh, maybe we didn't. I thought we did.
Okay,
maybe I'm making it up.
The ad for the next episode has Hitler in it, I think. Either that or it's the ad for the whole season. He is
No, I think it's for next episode. I think you're right.
Yeah, because I was like, I thought about that too. I was like, uh, they touched on everyone except for Hitler. I was like, wait, did Hitler survive last? Yeah, he did survive. Where's Hitler? And I went back and watched the whole season 4 trailer, and yes, he features prominently in the show this season. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
liked that they're just setting us up to really look at our whole cast again, and that we're gonna get a wrap up with that whole cast.
yeah, yeah. I kind of hope we see what's going on in hell too.
I don't know, they escaped from hell, so
But what's her name? The guard.
yeah, I can't remember her name, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I really want to know what's going on with her
Yeah, I don't
because of
know.
course Satan's dead.
Right.
The saint killed Satan. So,
Right. And that was the guy who played Tobin in The Walking Dead.
yes. So literally all hell could be breaking loose. Right?
Right.
So yeah, I hope we get a little bit of a follow up in hell. Maybe the saint goes back to rule. Maybe I don't know. Maybe Hitler gets to rule in hell. God, it's so weird how much we talk about Hitler nowadays.
Oh.
Remember when we were rooting for him on the show?
Right.
Oh,
I confessed on Facebook that my father, not our father, because we have the same mother but different fathers, was a crypto-fascist.
he was a literal Nazi.
He was a literal Nazi. He is
Yeah.
a literal Nazi.
Yeah,
I
yes.
don't have any contact with him for that very reason, but yeah. Yeah. So, interestingly enough, I'm getting a little triggered around all of this Nazi stuff. But I wasn't triggered by Hitler in Preacher, and I hope that I won't be.
They make him so small and unassuming.
Right?
Yeah,
That's how people like that get power.
right? It's the quiet ones you gotta watch.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. So what was your word? Let's just kind of go through some of the stuff that you wanted to talk about just for the series overall, or for the first 2 episodes overall.
Okay.
Okay.
Did I see foreskin ears? Was that foreskin ears?
I was kind of wondering that myself. I thought that ear looked a little penile.
What? Because he kind of got the idea from it. I don't know if it looked like onion rings or calamari rings or something on his plate, and he's like, "Bring me the surgeon
it was
or whatever."
calamari rings.
Yeah, and I'm like, and then I was like, okay, that looks like kind of like a flappy demon dog ear. Like and then like every once in a while we'd flash on kind of a closer up, and I'm like, that doesn't look like an ear at all. What is the? Oh God, is that really?
Now I think I'm going to have a difficult time eating calamari, which is really a bummer because I really like it.
Calamari's delicious, except for the calamari with the faces. You can't eat the face.
I don't know. We had a squid in Hawaii the last time we were there, and it was like the whole squid. It was amazing.
I'm sure it is, but it's just the visual I can't get over.
Yeah, no,
you know?
it was like stuffed and really obvious what it was, and it was really good.
I want one of those giant squid that attack the
whales.
blue whales. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I want to try that. If you haven't listened to our podcast about the movie The Meg, you should go listen to it. It's funny. And it's got a lot of good little tidbits about sharks and sea life in it.
We totally had our Nat Geo moment.
We did. And, I have to say that my friend who recommended The Meg said my sister has a very sexy voice.
Oh, tell him thank you. That's really funny. I'm totally blushing right now.
I forgot to mention that before the podcast.
That is really funny.
Oh, that's let's see. So I do like how we have stayed true to something we had talked about since the very first season, since Jesse got the word. Do you remember us talking about how every time he seems to use it, it backfires on him? it's still doing that. So, like, he told the little kid to drop the gun.
Oh,
And
God, that was horrible.
I know, don't kill the dog. Or the camels, but not the dog. But so he tells him to drop the gun drops, and it shoots the dog. And, then he winds up giving the kid his entire wallet and his boots. Like, so.
Which is what the kid was holding him up for anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it totally backfired there. And he still is trying to do the good thing, but it keeps backfiring. And then when he caught the ride with the guys on the camel and he told them to stop fighting, it backfires because the other guy doesn't speak English.
So that kind of bugged me. When did that become a barrier for Genesis?
Yeah, I thought about that too. I kind of thought that even if you said it in English, Genesis would transfer it for other dialects. I would have to go back and see if that's been a thing or not. I can't remember it not crossing language barriers or crossing language barriers. So it's kind of a gray area. But yeah, I thought it was, I think it's great how they kept that it's, and I think I described it early on as the evil genie, the genie, if you ask him for $1 million, he's not going to give you $1 million. He's going to give you 1 million male deer, It's a literal translation, and it is always going to wind up going awry. But Jesse still has some good in him. He still is trying to do the right thing.
Although he bails on Tulip and Cassidy completely.
For this weird dream that he nearly, I guess he didn't nearly kill Tulip. He nearly killed Tulip in the dream. But he's been having hallucinations that's leading him somewhere.
Well, he's in pursuit of God again, but
right.
He gave up on Tulip and Cassidy so that he could pursue God again.
Yeah. And we've seen him do that before. And they all kind of go off and do their own thing. And of course, we began kind of at their ending, it seemed like. Because we began with Jesse falling out of the sky in Australia and Tulip and Cassidy making out what seemed to be during the end of the world. So, and then they flash on a couple of months ago and we start our story there.
I thought it was really interesting that we had Tulip and Cassidy making out.
Yeah, and Cassidy's blonde.
Right, which I'm not sure how I feel about that.
I kind of liked it. I got a little bit of a Angel and Spike,
Oh, I can see how that worked for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I got the Spike vibe from Buffy. Yep.
All right, I got to tell you about something that bugged me through both episodes. Okay. How did Tulip get her car to the Middle East?
Okay, I finally cued in on that at the very end of the last episode. I was like, wait a minute, that's the Middle East and that's Tulip's car. Like, barges take a while.
It really bugged the heck out of me. I don't know why it bothered me so much, but every time I saw that car, it was like...
It took you out.
How did the car get to the Middle East?
Yes.
I mean, here she is at the Holy Grail and bar, working on her car in the back room. How did she get there? I don't know. Agree. It really bothered me. I will say something good about something that they did with Tulip, though. She got a bazooka again.
Yes,
and it was like
wasn't a homemade one.
Yeah, but it was like full circle to her homemade bazooka, and I can picture her with that homemade bazooka in that outfit with her little wrap on her head. Oh, I fell in love with Tulip at that moment in time.
Yep.
Yeah, so that was really a feel-good moment for me. I was like, oh, there's my Tulip.
And I love her whole, she can get in anywhere. She still had the Grail costume. She set this whole thing up where she was going to be stretchered in as an injured Grail employee. And she just pulled it off flawlessly. I mean, we did it with a bank in one season, and, we've done it and in a Grail facility. She can get in anywhere, and I love it. Um, I also love how they figure out which one is the wrong Messiah.
Oh, God. Yes, that's who I forgot to mention. We got to set up for Humperdew.
Right. I loved they're trying to find the real Humperdew, and the test is
The tap dancing and the
the
cane.
tap dance. Yep.
And he lived up to his name. He is such a vulgar character, and he's so funny.
I love that they're keeping like, I mean, it was just one little minor scene, and I'm like, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will have to say another thing that kind of took me out of it was like, oh, right, Cass is being held by the Grail, and we're at the Masada. And it's been so long since we've watched it, and so long since the last season. I was like, oh, right, here we are. It took me a while to get my bearings.
Yeah. So it looks like something that's going to be a little more prominent in the next episode, but we got a glimpse of it. And I thought I the other vampire that Cassidy was hanging out with last season.
Oh, Icarius.
Yes. I thought that that's who they saw in the window of his.
Oh, yeah, at Jesus Desaad.
Yes, I was at Jesus Desaad, but
No, I think it was probably Jesus Desaad. Are you still there?
Oh, there you are.
I said I think it was probably Jesus Desaad.
Okay, Jesus Desaad, and apparently it's going to be its own thing. So we kept seeing references to it in the Last Supper. So it looks like next episode we'll get a lot more deep dive, and it looks suspiciously like the plantation house that we left in ashes.
Well done.
Yeah. The layout looks the same. I don't know if like they intentionally used the same set or if, yeah, I don't know. But so that'll be interesting.
I did kind of crack up at the whole Jesus Desaad on the side of the pickup truck, and obviously the woman who was driving the pickup was a prostitute who was kind of telling her story.
I thought it was a reformed porn star.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, that's probably a more accurate take. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was super funny.
The KY made the stuff slip out of her hand.
The chicken. The chicken.
Yeah.
Ew. So I did also think it was really funny that they had the Grail University set up inside the Masada, complete with the coffee bar.
And lockers.
Yeah.
And, yeah. So that is actually where I got most of my numbers.
I didn't write down any numbers, so
numerology Bible hour study.
All right.
So I have to tell you, there were a ton of numbers, and I did not get to them all because I just noticed a plethora of them on my second watch right before we started podcasting. When Jesse was in the airport and all of the flights and destinations, times, and gates switched over, I actually took a picture of that so that I can go forward and figure out what any of those numbers means. Because you had 4-digit flight numbers, you had 4-digit flight times, and then you had 2-digit gate numbers that I need to do some research on. But beyond that, there were plenty of numbers for the episode.
Wow.
Here we go.
All right. I'm buckling up.
So there were 42 floors in the Masada. The Isaiah 42, the servant of the Lord. Here is my servant whom I uphold, my chosen one in whom I delight. I will put my spirit in him, and he will bring justice to the nations. Jesse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I will put my spirit into him, and he will bring justice. That's Jesse. So 42 floors, 42 in the Bible. Job 42. Then Job replied to the Lord, I know that you can do all things, no purpose of yours to be thwarted. You asked, who is this to obscure my plans without knowledge? Surely I spoke of things I did not understand, things too wonderful for me to know. So this kind of lent to the whole, what the heck is God doing working with the Grail? Like, maybe we shouldn't question him. He's got his plans, but I don't know. They're very obscure. So the meaning of number 42 in the Bible is a direct connection to the coming of the Antichrist. His evil efforts will last 42 months in the end of time, and thus 42 is firmly associated with him. Yeah. So the next number we have is and not sequentially, I wrote them down insequentially, but I was taking notice of the signs of the rooms that they were going into. So Urban Blight, the room that Cassidy went into and took over the pharmacist. And of course, that was the room of all the drugs.
Which was hilarious.
Yes. So the room was level 37, room 66. 37 in the Bible. Psalms 37. Do not fret for those who are evil or envious of those who do wrong. For like the grass, they will soon wither. Like the green plants, they will soon die away. Trust in the Lord and do good. Dwell in the land, enjoy safe pastures. Take delight in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Pretty sure Cassidy had the desires of his heart right there in that room. So that's what I got from Cassidy's room, or at least the floor he was on. That was level 37. I didn't really get much from 66. So all of the rooms of torture were on level 23. Psalms 23 is a very, very familiar passage for anyone who is pretty much alive and has heard anything on television ever. Psalms 23.
Like the sands through the hourglass, and so are the days of... No, just kidding.
No, I think a little more famous than that. So Psalms 23 is, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. He leadeth me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leadeth me into the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me, my rod and my staff.
I'm just laughing at you because you're struggling. I'm sorry.
I am.
I'm being horrible.
They comfort me. They preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies, and anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness, mercy shall follow me in the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
Okay, are you related to our preacher uncle, and did you live with him?
I'm sure I'm related to our preacher uncle. I don't think I lived with...
Yes,
I did. I did.
I am totally giving you grief about not knowing the 23rd Psalm by heart.
I've blocked it out. So all the torturing rooms were on the floor that deals with the part of the Bible that aids people in the passage of death. I thought that was interesting. I was like, I don't think that one's a coincidence. But so the first room beginning torture was room 11. The number 11 is important in the Bible and can symbolize disorder, chaos, and judgment. In the Bible, the number 11 is used 24 times, and 11th can be found 19th time. The coming after 10, which represents law and responsibility, the number 11, which represents the opposite, which is irresponsibility and breaking the law, brings disorder and judgment. So that was the first room that they passed by, which was beginning torture. Intermediate torture was room 12. There wasn't a whole lot in about 12. 12 can be found 187 times in God's word. Revelation alone has 22 occurrences, blah, blah, blah. It can symbolize the completeness of a nation or Israel as a whole. For example, Jacob had 12 sons, each of which represented a tribe that begun by a prince for 12 total. Ishmael, who had born Abraham, blah, blah, blah. It didn't really mean much to me. So 13 was advanced torture. That was the room that they took Cassidy in. The number 13 is symbolic in rebellion and lawlessness. Nimrod, the mighty hunter who was before the Lord, meaning he tried to take the place of God in Genesis 10:9, was the 13 in Ham's line. Ham was one of Noah's 3 sons who survived the flood. 13 represents all of the governments created by men and inspired by Satan in outright rebellion against the Eternal.
I would say that's Cassidy, outright rebellion against the Eternal.
Right? So he was in room 13. So like I said, there was a ton of others that came up at the last moment because of the airport scene. So I'm going to have to go through and see if any of those actually pan out. But that was our numerology Bible hour.
Good Lord, there was a lot.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, it'll be completely dry for a spell, and then they'll just throw it all on us at once.
Well, they certainly did throw it all on us at once.
2 episodes worth. Oh, man.
I have a few more things in my good news in my word, but I think I'm done for the night.
Yeah. A good start to the week.
Yeah. Midway through the week.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to go ahead and post this to the Biters feed this week as well, so that people can get a chance to get introduced to this if they haven't listened to it before and they're interested in Preacher.
Good.
Yeah. So I will double post this probably tomorrow.
Okay. So until that's up, till the end of the world.
Till the end of the world.
Have a better week, everybody.
Yeah, have a good week. Bye.
Bye.
I left his body